Welcome to ZIPS Nation Insider. My name is Jacob Farrar, your host this evening. We're excited to have Coach Brian Peresie from the women's swimming and diving team here, the head coach. Got to make sure you get it correct, the head coach of the women's swimming and diving team. So, Coach, we're excited to have you here today with ZIPS Nation Insider. This is our chance to really, I'll be honest, I really want to get to not too much secret sauce because, you're a competitive guy. We don't want to give away any of the secrets, but one thing I really would like to dive into, pardon the pun, is a little bit more about kind of your background, but also just what makes the University of Akron special when it comes to swimming and diving. You arrived here in May 2013, so we're coming up on almost 12 years. And looking back through some of the record books, you've had some success that I was telling before we kind of jumped on air, there's some rarefied air there as far as coaches taking a team. Because I'm sure you remember the swim team in 2013. How did they finish?
They were eighth, the worst team out of eight.
Eight out of eight. And to go on the run you've had since then is amazing. Do you get a chance to reflect on that, or do you just, next season, next meet? So I want to give you a chance to kind of reflect on a little bit of what that has meant. Because it wasn't like you started, you had swimmers from the 13 team on the 14 team. So it wasn't like you started from scratch. But I'm just curious, just when you reflect on that success that you've had, we'll get into a little bit more about you and your background and the team, all that kind of stuff. But I just really wanted to start with that piece of, what you've been able to accomplish in your tenure here at Akron.
Sure. No, it's been a great run so far. It's been a lot of fun, and reflection happens sometimes, but then it is often on to the next.
Sure.
So, I try to enjoy the victories when we have them, and even enjoy the one defeat that we had in the MAC. So, I think there's something to learn from all of them. But no, definitely have enjoyed my time. And early on, you said you didn't want me to give away any secrets. I don't have any secrets.
There's no secret sauce.
And in the end, one thing I challenge our team to do is, we want to win. We want to be competitive, but we also want to beat people when they're at their best.
Sure.
So if we need to help people be at their best, then so be it. Let's go.
Rising tide raises all ships, so to speak.
Exactly. And I think that since 2013, 2014, if you look at the overall depth in the Mid-American Conference and the competitiveness and the times and the scores, you see that our conference is really one of the best mid-major conferences in the country. So we put out some really, really fast swimmers and some high-quality divers.
So you have I guess, raised the competition within the conference. At the same time, just the success you've had in the last, 13 years or 12 years of being here, 11 championships. That one year you mentioned, but you only lost that one by 7 points. So
Yeah.
I'm sure those 7 points are probably something you think about. Maybe you don't, I don't know. But I wanted to, as we jumped off into today's conversation, just, what that meant. Because I did look up, coaches that have gone from, last place to first place and then the prolonged winning. And there's not a lot of examples out there. And so I wanted to just start out congratulating you on that and also the success of the team, right? You're the coach, but it's the swimmers that got to swim. So it's everyone involved with that success.
Well, no, that first season, though, I wasn't expecting that we could win, right? I didn't know that going in, but I was talking about this earlier with someone. That first year, the team, they were ready for a change, and they were excited about a change. And when we started in the fall, we were on a camping trip, which we go on every fall. And we spend like 2 nights out sleeping in tents, cooking over a fire, which is a really good team building activity for us. And I remember one of the evening chats that we had, I asked everyone, I said, so who here thinks we can win a MAC championship this year? And every single person raised their hands. And I was thinking, they're crazy. This is the first week. That's crazy. That's not happening. So I was like, I'm not going to say that. I go, so who here thinks we can win an NCAA championship? Well, 3 people raised their hands, and I said, you guys are crazy because that's not happening.
Sure.
But it was from that point forward that we started to talk about, what our goals were, what our expectations were. And, one of our goals, I said, I think it's important that, our goal is to win a championship every year. But this year, I think we'd be happy if we finished in the top half, because Akron had never finished in the top half. So, allowing them to dream big and think big, but then also having something that was a little bit more realistic. Fast forward to getting closer to the end of the season, I remember meeting with Kendra Colby in my office, who was captain at the time, and I asked her, so how's the team feeling about going into the conference championships this year? How do they think we're going to do? And she's like, immediately, we're going to win. I go, what? She's like, you don't think so? I was like, no, I didn't say that. I go, but I just, that's what everybody thinks. She's like, oh yeah, we think we can do it. And I go, wow. She's like, well, you don't think so? I go, no. I go, I just, I'm looking at the numbers. I go, I think there's a chance. I go, I think we could get second. I feel really good about that. I think getting first, there's 7 other teams that we got to compete against. Yeah. There's a lot of other variables, but I remember at that moment, I was like, all right, they are all bought in and they are ready to go. So, when I think back to that first season, that's something that stands out to me. And it was a really cool experience, going through that competition and, each day kind of being at the top of the scoreboard. And it's like, whoa, are we really going to do this? Okay. Are we going to do this? And I remember one of my good friends who's coaching another school in the conference, still coaching. He came up to me after prelims on the last day when we pretty much sealed it with our qualifications. And he said, congratulations, Brian. He goes, you made everybody here look like crap. He used a different word, but I don't know what kind of show this is.
Sure. So we get it.
But as I started laughing, I was like, yeah, I get it. But yeah, that was pretty unbelievable experience. And then just to continue doing that and putting people at the NCAA championships after year 3, we've had a lot of success. We worked really hard for that, and we want to continue to build upon that.
Yeah. I was telling my kids that I was interviewing you today, and I started listening, the years that they won. And they're like, Dad, he's got all his fingers and a toe. So
one for the toe.
One for the toe. That's I don't know how you reflect on that, but they thought that was kind of cool that you have a ring for one of your toes as well. So we talked about May 2013. You take the job here, take over as head coach. What kind of led you to that process? Maybe walk through your background a little bit, and then deciding, to come to Akron to be the head coach.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, my first college coaching job was at Ashland University, where I convinced the head coach there to hire me as his GA, because he had just gotten rid of his GA mid-season and he wasn't going to hire anybody. And it was in my hometown.
Got it.
So I said, hey, I can just live at home and would love to do this. So I went to Ashland University, got my MBA. I was a real punk back then. I really pushed Paul. I think back on some of the things that we talked about and some of the conversations we had, and I'm like, man, I was young and dumb and gutsy. Yeah. Yes. But I was always very ambitious too. I remember Michael Phelps was recruitable at that time, and I included him on the mailing list. And I go, you never know. He might want to go to a small private school.
You miss every shot that you don't take.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So, I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. Sure. After that, actually where I met my wife, Emily, and we decided to get married. And, believe it or not, my first job after coaching at Ashland University was in Akron, Ohio. I was a claims representative at the Office of Social Security Administration.
Oh my goodness!
So I worked downtown Akron. I was there for
not coaching.
No,
not coaching.
No.
So you go from coaching at Ashland to taking a normal job.
Yeah, 2003. Okay. So there weren't many coaching jobs out there. The internet isn't what it was. Sure. It is now. And I wanted to coach, but didn't know what to do. So it was October that year. So about 6 months after I was working in Akron, that the Ohio University position opened up. I swam for Greg Werner in college, so I knew him well. So I interviewed, and he ended up giving me the position. So we moved down there, and I coached at Ohio University for 8 years. I learned a lot about, how to coach. I learned how to do a camping trip, because Greg was the one that took the team on camping trips.
So that tradition that you've done since that very first year came from your experience at
Yes,
Ohio.
Absolutely. Okay. So I think we do a little bit better, but things get better as you progress, right?
Sure.
So, I coached with him for 8 years, and then the head coaching position at Malone University opened up, and they were NAI switching to Division II.
Okay.
And I was ready to be a head coach. I wanted to do it. And my wife and I, we didn't necessarily want to move across the country. We have a lot of family in Ohio.
Okay.
So it seemed like a good fit. So went to Malone University. It was a very tough position taking, it was a new program. It was only a year old, trying to build that up. Men and women, only had a GA for an assistant.
Wow.
When this position opened up, I was like, oh yes, let's go. So I called every favor that I could for every coach that I knew to call in and give me a good recommendation. Was able to get an interview. And then Tom Wistersill, he hired me. And then I made Tom look really good.
Exactly. 12 years later.
Love you, Tom, if you're listening. Love you. Thank you.
Great decision. So what was it about Akron? Was it just the opportunity? It's a head coach in Division I, or was there something specific about, I don't know if you've met any of the swimmers, or maybe it was sight unseen, so to speak. But
no, I was familiar because I coached at Ohio University. We won 2 championships when I was at Ohio. I felt like I did a really good job coaching kids in the MAC, and had success, and had some individuals that qualified for NCAA championships that were kind of under my group when I was at OU. So I felt very confident with the genre, so to speak. Got it. But it was definitely a step up. It paid more money also, of course, so it was advancement. But then, when I came here on my interview, I was just like, oh my gosh, why hasn't this team been better?
Sure.
The facilities are amazing. The pool is absolutely amazing. The field house.
It's a fast pool.
It is a fast pool. Yes, as we learned in an earlier episode from Abby Daniel.
Exactly.
If you haven't seen that one, go back and find it. You can learn about what makes a fast pool. So, but yeah, no, I remember walking around campus and I'm just like, this place is amazing. Like, they just need somebody that, comes in here and, can bring in a little bit of talent, develop people, but it seemed like a diamond in the rough. So I was really, really excited, especially the closer I looked at the program. So I thought there was a lot of potential.
And then that year, again, as we talked about in the beginning, last place in the MAC. So you knew that going into, you're like, okay, here we go. I've taken over a team that was last place, and again, you've not looked back since. One of the things I saw as I've been kind of researching was this phrase in your philosophy of a happy swimmer is a fast swimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that a little bit. How that is, what kind of the origins of that, but also how you manifest that within your team.
Sure. I don't know where that came from, but it's been around, and you hear it a lot.
It's attributed to you, by the way.
But happy swimmers are fast swimmers. There's no question about it. But I think that, happy reporters, they're great reporters,
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I had this conversation, again, kind of preparing and talking with my wife, that is a philosophy, that a happy worker is an efficient worker. Like it's not something that, it's great that it's attributed to you, but there is application outside of swimming with a lot of different things of, if someone's happy and they take joy in what they do, they're going to perform better. Right?
Absolutely.
It's not rocket science, but it's
right.
Cool that it's been attributed to you, but then you've actually seen the fruit of that. So
sure. Well, we swim on a black line back and forth. So, there's, I don't know, it's hard to find fun in that, right? So the fun, it's, happy swimmers are fast swimmers. It's hard to be happy in that, just grinding, grueling. But, I know that the women on our team, they're tough. So they like that. I know I was a swimmer and I liked pushing myself to new limits. But, there's also a lot of other things that go into it. If there's things that are going on outside of the pool, whether it's academics or with your family, and it's not going well, and, you become a little unhappy, that's going to affect your efforts in the pool. It's going to affect your performance. So, it's not just about what's happening in the water. Yes, fast swimming cures everything is what it seems like. You do well and that makes everything better. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that outside of the pool that can affect what's going on inside. So I want everybody to feel fulfilled with what they're doing. And if they're having a challenge outside of the pool, we want to help them with that if we're able to, and if they're willing to let us help them. So, it encompasses everything, but it's a pretty simple statement of philosophy.
So what are some of the examples of making it a happy environment?
I think when you're learning and growing,
okay.
I think people like to be challenged and then be successful. So it's, finding a way to make tasks or the things that we're doing successful, or learning a new skill that can make you feel good when you learn how to do a technique a little bit better. So then you feel good about yourself. So then you're a little bit maybe happier. But, happiness does come from within. It's not something that I can just give to somebody, but I can influence it. So there's little things I think that we can do. Just come on the pool deck and smile in the morning. Although, it's hard for them to smile in the morning, but it's a choice. I don't need to, but I walk on the pool deck at, 6 a.m. or whatever time it is. And, as I tell them sometimes, I'm doing this because if I'm not doing it, there's no way you guys are going to do it. So, just how I carry myself as well, I think is really important as a leader of the program.
Plus, you also need to find a way. I mean, that's what's interesting about swimming. I think we've talked about with both. We had Grace on as well, and Abby. They both talked about that. Swimming is an interesting sport in which it is individual, but there's team implications. It's a team sport with very much individual kind of wrapped up inside of it. And every swimmer, going back to the happy part, there's a lot of different buttons to push to make someone happy. And so that's, I think, a credit to you and your assistants of being able to figure out for each individual swimmer, what does it take to make them do their best? Because it's not a whole team. It's got to be individual, and then that has ramifications for the entire team.
Sure. No, I think also including them in the process.
Got it.
Even talking with them a little bit about what they wanted training to look like this spring. I think that that's something that has helped them out here in the off season, because, there's things that, if they're part of the process, and I think if anybody, wherever you work, if you're the person that oversees you, includes you in that process, then that helps you feel like, oh, I'm a part of something, I have a say in that, okay, this is great. I'm not just being told to do this. And I think that sometimes we don't give young people enough credit.
Sure.
I think that the 18 to 23-year-olds that we work with in the swimming diving program, they're very intelligent. They know the difference between right and wrong. They want to do great things. And I think if you give them the opportunity to make decisions, and you give young people the opportunity to make decisions, they're going to make good decisions. So, sometimes I think, people want to control or be, all, saying this way or the highway, so to speak. But I think that if you include everyone in the conversation, I think that helps as well.
Have you, and this is one thing I wanted to find out and ask you, if you've taken kind of some of this philosophy, you've done any speeches, professional speeches, is that something that, you've been offered to do, invited to do, to come to a corporation and talk about this? Is this something?
Not a corporation, but at the College Swim Coaches Association, I've spoken at our annual meetings, or the ASCA, the American Swimming Coaches Association World Clinic. I've talked at that twice now, I think. So I've talked to my peers, right? But never a corporation. But if anybody would like to reach out, you can find my information on the website. Feel free. Would be happy to talk about culture.
But I think you have, your resume speaks for itself, and that if there is a corporation that, especially maybe an organization that hires, to your point, these 18 to 23-year-olds that, bring these folks on for, summer internships or whatever, I think there'd be a good opportunity. I'm not using this as a vehicle to help you get, but I just think that there is application, as we talked about, across not just swimming, but the business world as well, especially since you were an MBA, right? You got your MBA. What did you, if this swimming thing didn't work out, what was the path? Social Security, like you mentioned before? Or?
I don't know. Maybe I'd be on the corner of Spicer and Carroll. I'm not sure. But
swim coach or any money if you have it. Got it. You said no, there wasn't really a fallback.
Okay, so I forgot. Actually, my first job out of college, I worked for ComDoc.
Oh, yeah.
I sold copiers, fax machines, and printers. 3 months. I didn't sell one, and I got fired. So that didn't work out for me. I tell you, if I went back and I did that job now, I would kill it. I didn't know what I was doing.
Sure.
But then I got into coaching. Was that right after that? But
well, hey, ComDoc, I don't know if they watch anyone from ComDoc, some retribution, some comeback, bring you in and talk about culture and how to motivate people. There we go. Maybe we'll sell some of those opportunities for you.
Sure.
Let's take a step back. So last year, another fantastic season. Not only did the team win the MAC, but you had some individual performances. You had Abby. We talked about Abby, most outstanding swimmer. Felicia got the freshman swimmer of the year. You had a number that were, I think, 3 first team, 6 second team all MAC. What are some of the key highlights that stand out for you from kind of the 24-25 season?
one thing, we went to the college swim coaches, or the CSCAA National Invitational Championship, which is, that's like the NIT for basketball.
Got it.
Okay. So, and we won that competition. That was pretty cool because you have other schools there, like Kentucky was there, Ohio State. They got second. So we had a lot of really, really good performances there. One of them that really stood out, we won all 5 relays, which was really cool. And we broke 2 meet records. One of them was in the 800 freestyle relay. The other was in the 400 freestyle relay. I think both records might've been Tennessee's. But coming back in the postseason, it's kind of like a developmental, step for going from conference to the NCAA championships, because these are ones that didn't qualify for NCAAs. But that was really cool to be able to win a national championship. We had a lot of individual national champions, and then also the relays. So that was a lot of fun.
Now, was that the first time that Akron's been part of that?
We were part of that in 2019, which we actually we won it. That's the first time we won it. In 2020, the COVID year, we claim we won it, but it was only one day. Yeah. So we were winning after the first day. So we take that as also a title.
Sure.
But that was really neat experience. But our team did really, really well at the conference championships. I think we like our relays were just a couple tenths off making the NCAA championships. So that was kind of it's like, we could have been there, but it's not like we were, disappointed with that. Abby did great at the NCAA championships, finishing 15th. She got really, really ill right after conference. Oh, wow. So it kind of affected her training a little bit. But she did she was diligent. She was disciplined. She did what she could until her body was allowing her to do more. And for her to come back and be able to set the conference record in the 100 butterfly and be at her best in that event was amazing. Her 200s were a little bit off. 200 IM wasn't as good as it had been before. 200 butterfly, not as good as it had been before, but they were respectable swims. I think that's where maybe those few days where she was really, really sick kind of affected things. But I was really proud of her for how she was able to rise up and do that, because it was, those 3 weeks, from conference through NCAAs, that was a big challenge for her, and she really stepped up.
Yeah, we loved when she was on the episode and really quite frank about just the challenges that she has, as well as just the success. We really appreciated her coming on and was super happy to see the success that she's had. And as she kind of moves on to the next, I think she wants to be a physical therapist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
That's where she wants to kind of pursue her. And I think to have, again, the success that she's had as a student athlete, and then going into a field that hopefully maybe influence other swimmers and really taking that to the next level. Some of these swimmers, how we talked a little bit about that, the idea of individual sport, team sport, but some of these individual, I think a lot of the swimmers are pretty humble about that. Yeah, I'm first team all MAC or whatever, but I think they still focus on the team. Is that kind of part of that your philosophy is that, you can have individual, but really it's the team? Or how do you kind of balance that with your swimmers of, the individual accolades versus how we do as a team?
I think we do better as individuals when our team does better.
That's a good point. Yeah.
One of the things that I asked the team at the beginning of almost every year is, at the end of the year, would you rather us win a team championship, but you don't go best times, or you go best times, but we get second? And everybody says win the team championship. But that's still hard, right? Because you want, you work hard in that individual payoff, and you want to feel like you're contributing and everything. So there's a lot of ways that we contribute. But, just having those conversations early on, just in case something doesn't go well or somebody feels like they weren't able to, perform it as well as they could have, right? Qualifying for NCAA, still going best times, but then maybe you don't qualify. Yeah. And then that's something that can be hard to deal with. So, really just kind of talking about that team and then being invested in the team. And one thing too is, if you're on the team and you're a freshman coming in and I'm an upperclassman, I might be really trying to mentor you. Yeah. Because I know that maybe you could beat me. But if I can get you to beat me, that's going to make me better too.
Sure.
Because if I'm helping you. So that's part of our philosophy and how we operate, which, at the end of the year, if you're the one on the podium and you won an event, you want your teammates to be happy for you and cheering as well.
Not be like, who's that person, and kind of have a negative feelings about someone that's done well.
But if you've ever been a tutor and you've taught someone math, you learn math better yourself. Yeah. So it's the same thing with our team.
That's great to hear. We are in the off season, right? So what's some of the things that you work on in the off season? Part of that is probably recruiting. We'll talk about recruiting in a second, but what are, as the off season begins, what are some of your focus? Are they still swimming? They're still in classes, obviously, but what do you do during the off season? What does the off season look like for you guys?
Swimming's a grueling sport.
Yeah.
So, right now we have 2 swimmers that they're training for Polish nationals. Okay. That's in 2 weeks. Grace is training for World Para Trials, which is in 2 weeks. And then Effie, she's training for Greece trials, which are in 4 weeks. So they didn't take any breaks. They've still been training in the water. And then we have others that took maybe 2 weeks off, and then they're back in the water training for the summer. So it's really a sport that just kind of rolls into the next season.
Just keeps going.
The only time that I don't run practice is in August, or the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks in August, because that's really when there's not a lot of competitions.
Okay.
So it's just like runners, cross country, right? They're running year round. Swimming is a sport that is year round as well. If you're not training year round and competing, then you're not going to be able to reach your potential.
Plus, it's easier to peak performance, keeping that momentum versus stopping a complete restart. So if you're continuing to go, it's easier to build up that momentum to be at your kind of your peak, so to speak. Because you do, even though there is MAC championships are in March, you're doing competitions in the fall. Like it is a much longer season than any of the other sports. Maybe golf is the one that they do golf here. I think it's a year round. But other than that, I think swimming is probably one of the longer seasons, so to speak. So
sure,
keeping up that momentum. Let's talk about recruiting a little bit. Looking through the roster for the team, some of the countries, you mentioned a couple. So we had Greece. I wrote these down. South Africa, Canada, Sweden, Poland, Serbia, Greece, Ireland, England. How do these swimmers find? What's that process to find? Either you find them or they find the University of Akron.
So, a lot of ways. One is they might reach out to us.
Okay.
Another way is just word of mouth. I think we've had someone from Poland on our team every year that I've been here. Next year, we'll have 3 or 4 from Poland. So those swimmers have done really well. They go home, they compete in their nationals, they do really well, and then we have a good reputation in Poland. Others, they might hire a recruiting agency, right? Okay. So like, prospects do in the States.
Sure.
And we might get a profile or an email from that agency as well. Or we might just be looking up results and, we look online and we find them online and send them a message. So there's a lot of different ways to find people.
But it's not you going to Poland.
No, and some of them, they put their information on, like swimcloud.com or websites or stuff like that. Yes. So
there is a way, obviously technology has improved your ability to recruit internationally. Is there an equivalent of the transfer portal? Do you get students or swimmers from other, teams kind of coming to Akron that way? Didn't look a lot like it, but I was just curious.
So like the transfer portal, you mean like just clubs like from high school?
No, transfer portal, like other university programs.
Yes. We actually had this year transfer that came in from West Virginia and then one from Indiana. Okay. The year before we had one from Miami, one from Indiana.
It happens.
Yep. Okay. And then we've got someone coming in from Rutgers next year and Duquesne, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
The other thing that I love to see, and I've noticed this on the men's soccer team as well, is you have this international talent, but then you got kids from here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of talk about that balance of being able to scout. What's the swimming culture here in Ohio? Is it one where obviously you're finding talent, but is it being exported or is it staying here? Talk about a little bit the swimming ecosystem, so to speak, in Ohio.
Well, talent is talent. So my job as the head coach is to find the best talent and bring it to Akron. If it's in Ohio, great.
Yeah.
Yes. If it's in California, if it's in Japan, wherever, we want to bring the best talent to the University of Akron. So that's my obligation to put forth the best team that we can put forward. But we've also been very fortunate to have done a great job and have a good reputation in the area. So we have a lot of local swimmers and divers that Akron becomes their first choice because, if you've got everything that you want and everything that you need to be successful in your backyard, why would you go anywhere else? Sure. So, we've been able to retain a lot of that talent within the area. So that's been great. But if we're fishing in our pond and we can't catch any fish, then we're going to go fish in somebody else's pond.
Sure.
So really, we're just, trying to find the best kids.
To your point, talent doesn't hide. You're going to find them. You're going to find them.
Some of it does, though.
Okay.
Yeah, some of it does. Because, there's some swimmers that, they come from clubs that they basically operate like a college program, so they're doing a really, really good job of developing their swimmers. And then there's others where maybe they do 3 sports, and they haven't done the year-round training, or they haven't lifted or whatever it is. So there could be. But
there's a little nugget in there that you're like, hey, I can do something with this. Is that kind of, that's obviously your job as well, is to see where there's a positive thing to be like, hey, just let me kind of mold this the Akron way, so to speak, and we'll be able to, really chip away some of the, bad habits or whatever that is, to maximize their potential, so to speak.
Yep, that's right. I refer to them as a block of clay.
Block of clay.
Sometimes you have to use these big tools, right, to chip away at it, and then sometimes you need to just use like the fine brush to refine it and make it look good. So we get a pretty good idea of what we're going to get.
You alluded to this earlier, the camping trip, and that's part of one of the things that you do from a culture perspective. The other thing is, and we talked to, I think both, I know for sure Abby, maybe Grace, but during the winter you do a trip down to Florida, that winter camp or whatever you call it, break. Talk a little bit about that and what that does from a culture perspective, but also just kind of team bonding.
It's huge. One, to have a great culture in any organization or group, it comes from having great relationships. And the way you build great relationships is outside of the office or outside the pool. So that trip is one of those ways where we have a lot more time to spend together as a team. And it's very, very cold and snowy in Akron in December and January.
Yeah.
So having the ability to go and then be able to do some activities together, which we do a lot of talking. Sometimes we'll read a book together. We'll have group discussions each night. And then we'll apply that to our team, to swimming, to diving, to our lives, so that we can become better human beings and have better relationships with each other, but also understand each other on a deeper level, because then that creates better relationships, which leads to better culture, which leads to better efforts, which leads to better performance, which leads to better results.
So there is a method to the madness, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And one of the things, though, I've noticed, though, that you're swimming outdoors. Does that affect anything then moving it indoors into the natatorium, or is there a purpose to that, or is it just, hey, it's the pool we can get, so we swim outdoors?
It's change of environment is important. When you have the same environment, sometimes you can lose a little bit of motivation or inspiration or maybe it's not lose it, but it just kind of gets dull.
Sure.
Then when you're in a new place, then there's a little bit more excitement. There's looking around. There's new things to look at. The black line is a little more faded, or the sun's a little bit brighter.
Sure.
But then that can also, change your it can stimulate you in a different way. So changing environment, and that's something that I've been thinking about the last few years in terms of the long periods that we are here, when we are in Ocasek Natatorium, which is a beautiful facility, but it's like, okay, what are other ways that we can change the environment so that it becomes a little bit more exciting, right? Or a little bit fresher in some way. So there's little things we can do, but it's still something that I know that if we go swim in a different pool, there's just a different level of excitement there as well.
And the swimmers love it, from at least the reports that I get, that they enjoy that. Is there any stories of a swimmer that maybe, that first part, the fall, whatever season, or this training was going in the fall, and then they have this winter camp or break, whatever you call it, and something switches? Has there been any examples of swimmers that have really taken advantage of that and just, blossomed because of that experience?
I'm trying to think specifically, but no, more generally, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's hard for me to just, pinpoint one person that that moment. Well, actually, you know what? Now that I think of it, and this is like, again, the personal, challenges, right? Sure. That sometimes can get away with things in the pool. I know that trip, if somebody's been struggling, like maybe they've been homesick, or maybe they haven't found their niche, right, with the team, or they feel connected but not fully.
Got it.
Like that's what, then they come back. I don't feel homesick anymore. I feel like I belong. Like if it hasn't happened to that point, that's when it happens.
And then just the perfect timing for the rest of the MAC season,
yes,
you're able to build on. So When do you start planning for that? I mean, you're already looking into that. I mean, it's in December when you guys do that, but what does that process look like for you? Is that something that you do personally, or do one of your assistants work on?
Well, I like to do the same things every year. I don't want to go to a new location.
Sure.
We've been going to Coral Springs for, I don't even know how many years. Last year they were under construction.
Oh, wow.
So they were redoing their concrete. So we went to Naples, and that was a challenge because it was new location, new pool, new staff, new hotel, new logistics. Going back to Coral Springs this year, we went to the same place, Carriage House Resort. Love you, Susanna. Thank you for everything. They take great care of us. It's a good location. We know the logistics. We have our pool time set, because if you go somewhere new, you don't have priority with the pool time, so we had pretty good pool time, 8 to 10 in the morning and 4 to 6 at night, rather than 6 to 8 in the morning and 2 to 4.
Because there's other schools that are taking advantage. You're not the only one.
Oh yeah, no, there's other schools are there. Yes, a lot of other schools.
So you do have to kind of allocate your time and kind of share that facility. We're with head coach Brian Peresie from the women's swim and diving team here on ZIPS Nation Insider. Let's kind of look into next year. I know the year just finished, but let's kind of scout out next year. What are some things you have on kind of your whiteboard of working on for the 25-26 season?
Well, right now we've got 10 to 12 newcomers coming in. So, that's between new freshmen, or transfers.
Sure.
So we graduated a large number. We have 11 seniors this year. So, we're graduating a really, really talented and great group that's going to go out into the working force.
Sure.
But we'll miss them. But, we've got a lot of new faces that are coming in. So we're excited to start working with them and start, building upon what we've done in the past.
So the big goal is just to integrate them into the process, get them going, and hopefully maximize their success as quick as possible.
Well, yeah, we're hosting the conference championships next year.
Oh, there we go. Big.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely, yeah. We need to have that natatorium filled. One thing I wanted to ask, and again, I'm part of my not really knowing, but from other sports we talk a lot about data and analytics. I'm assuming, and I'm probably sure that there's data analytics in swimming.
Mm-hmm.
How have you embraced that as a coach? What does that look like to you to take some of this technology that's out there and apply it to the team? Is that you? Is that your assistants? What does that look like?
It's all of us. Okay. Yeah, we have a service called Tritonware, and then they also have heart rate monitors. But so the heart rate monitor, it goes in their cap. We've been experimenting with having it be on their leg. And then the device goes in their cap, and it measures, it has its accurate timing for each lap. It can tell the difference between strokes. It measures transition time for turns, going into the wall, coming out, push off strength. There's a ton of metrics that it records every day in practice. So we could go back and look, and we can actually compare ourselves to other teams that use the service as well, but we can see where we're doing well, like our push off depth for our underwater dolphin kicks, how long we're staying underwater on butterfly versus backstroke. So it gives us a good indication of the athlete readiness as well, because it has a kind of a score that it uses to say, look, it looks like everybody's fried or, everybody's ready to go.
So you can see that in the data.
Mm-hmm.
They made the looks on their face, but you can also see the data that, maybe this was a tough practice. Or something like that.
Yeah. And, Bluetooth technology isn't the greatest in water, but we can follow it live, so we can see their heart rates when they come up for air. It downloads to the thing, so we can tell what kind of effort people are giving.
Yes. Real-time data.
Yeah, real time, and then we can go back and look at it.
Oh, my goodness. And my guess is that this isn't something that's new, just university. That other teams in the MAC or
other teams have it. Yep, I know other teams that are getting it because we have it now. That's happening.
Again, this rising tide, right? In other words, you want to beat the people that are the maximum of their success. That so they need to essentially adopt that same technology, so to speak.
Sure, we have a great camera system at Okasik Natatorium as well. So we have 6 underwater cameras and then 3 above water cameras. That the above waters are permanently mounted. The underwaters we can move anywhere in the pool, and all we have to do is it's an Ethernet. We plug it in, and so for Zippy Invitational or any competition that we host, it downloads to the app at the same or to an iPad at the same speed like for NFL when you see them go on the sideline.
Sure.
They look at the Surface tablet. We have that for swimming, and they can see all 8 or 9 cameras in every angle all at once.
Goodness.
So it's pretty amazing, and that's something that that we've really been able to utilize this past year. I wish more places had it, but we seem to be the only one. No, there's a few other that have. No, they do. But in the conference,
in other words,
haven't really seen a lot.
University of Akron is about as data driven as you can be, so to speak.
Yep. We're trying to be on the cutting edge and learn as much as we can and figure it out.
Excellent. All right, so we got. Hopefully this has all been fun, but these are more of the fun questions we have coming up. So you mentioned you're from Ashland, Ashland, Oregon. Ohio. I'm sorry, There is an Ashland, Oregon. I'm from the Pacific Northwest, so my bad about that. Ashland, Ohio. One of the questions that we like to ask our guests, we call it the hometown pizza. So if we're going to Ashland, not too far down the road, 35, 40 minutes, where are we getting pizza at?
Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting? I'm blanking on the name. It's right across the street from Ashland University. KD Pizza.
KD Pizza.
Yep. KD.
KD Pizza.
I don't get any money for this. KD.
we don't either. What's your order? What are you getting?
Oh, pepperoni and green olives.
Pepperoni and green olives from KD Pizza, right across the street from campus in Ashland. Okay. Do you have any rituals or superstitions that you need to do to make a match or a meet go well?
Any superstitions?
Yeah.
Loud music.
Loud music.
That's what you need. That's all you need. Loud music.
There we go. One question when Chad told us that we're going to be interviewing today, I said there's got to be a question about facial hair, gold chains, and super bright pants. Talk a little bit about that. You're clean shaved today, but the MAC championship was not so much. You had a nice facial hair going. Talk a little bit about that and how's that changed from year to year? Is that something that a little tradition that you have, your facial hair?
So this all started at the 2014 MAC Championships.
2014, so right
away. So after prelims, going into finals, the parents had given us a goodie bag. So all the coaches had one and then people on the team. And in the bag, there was fake mustaches and a blue fedora hat. So I remember the team, I think we had a team meeting at the hotel. And I remember thinking that, man, they are like a little stressed. They haven't been in this kind of situation before, right?
It's new.
So I went back up to my room and I grabbed that mustache and that hat and I threw it in my bag. We got to the pool, we met, and then after our meeting, I put it on. So yellow mustache and then the blue fedora hat. And they thought I was ridiculous. Nobody dressed up in the conference at that point in time. And but what was great about it was I remember squatting down, talking to somebody in the pool, and they're asking me a question about how to warm up or whatever it is. And then I start answering, and then they just smile. And I'm like, what? They go, I can't take you seriously with that on your face. But it made them relax.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what was
missing.
That's what they needed. Yeah. Yes, they needed to be relaxed to be at their best. So it like broke the tension. So ever since then, there's just been something that needed to be done, and it's kind of morphed into, the gold chain is something that, if someone from Akron wins, an individual relay championship, the coach from that team gets to give the award. So one year I thought, let's go with a gold chain. So I give them a gold chain when they win the award. Yeah. And other teams, they would love to have the gold chain, but it's only for Akron.
Yeah.
So, that's where the gold chain came from. So I had to have 4 for relays. And then just the facial hair, that just started because I don't want to wear fake mustaches every time.
You could fall in the pool.
And then, exactly. Not this year, but the year before, I had this massive beard that I grew from I think maybe it was September or October. And I shaved a little bit of it every night. And then I just had the handlebars and like these things that were hanging down, whatever you call that. Yeah. And it was not, I should have kept that look for a lot longer. My wife would have killed me, but it was amazing. So this year I just went with the handlebars the whole time
because little part in the middle was
it's hard to top it every year. Like last year, I couldn't really top last year. The gold pants, that was like, what should we do? And then all of a sudden it was like, let's get gold pants. So
there we go. And now it's a tradition of the University of Akron swim team.
I know, right? I know. What's next year? I don't know.
Planning a trip down to Florida and what I'm going to wear to the MAC championship.
Right.
All right. So our last segment, we call it the rapid fire segment. We're going to ask you a bunch of questions really quick. The first answer that pops into your head. But our rapid fire segment is brought to you by 330 To Go, Northeast Ohio's hottest and fastest growing news and entertainment network. All right. Rapid fire. Favorite pump-up song before a meet?
Started from the bottom. Drake. Now the whole team here. That was our anthem year one.
Got it. Your go-to post-meet meal.
My go-to post-meet meal?
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
I mean, I don't post-meet. Oh, well, I mean, I just prefer Chipotle. That's easy, and it's healthy. So I'll go there every time.
Who's the funniest swimmer on the team?
Funniest swimmer?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. It's actually my GA, Zachary Moody. He's the funniest.
Best dancer?
On the team?
Yeah.
Who's got the moves? I don't know. They're all great dancers. Definitely not me. No way. Oh, Julia Motter. Yes, she does a great rendition of what you got, the magic and me, whatever that song is.
Sure.
She does. I think I got it right.
I'll trust you on that one.
The whole team makes her do it. The whole dance.
Who's the best singer on the team?
Best singer. That's me. I have a microphone during practice, and I'm over the loudspeaker, so I will karaoke all day.
What's your favorite thing about Akron?
My favorite thing about Akron? Diamond Deli.
Great answer. What's your go-to order there at Diamond?
The Reuben.
The Reuben. Okay. One word to describe the 24-25 ZIPS swim team.
Baller.
Great. If you could have dinner with any athlete, past or present, who would it be?
Any athlete, past or present, I would have dinner with.
Now I want to know who that is. If it makes you chuckle, now I really.
Tom Brady and Bill Belichick at the same time.
Interesting. At the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That would be good. Yes, that would be a good dinner. And hopefully one of those two are paying for it.
Of course.
Tom, at least we know Tom has the resources for that. What's your hidden talent?
I can juggle.
You can juggle?
Mm-hmm.
Does the team know you can juggle?
They see me do it with oranges sometime.
Who's your favorite MAC rival?
My favorite MAC rival, Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Mm-hmm. Andy Basher, head coach, was my coach my freshman year in college.
So Buffalo, that's when we get a win against Buffalo, there's a little something special.
It's just fun.
It's just fun.
I want to beat people when they're at their best. It's all good. But yeah, it's a good rivalry. And it's all the coaches in the MAC, we get along great.
Sure.
So that's something that's really nice.
That's good.
Yeah. So I enjoy competing against all of them.
What's your favorite or best advice you've ever received?
So best advice, I mean, there's a lot of ways I could answer that, but from a team perspective, it came from, Brian Forrester, who used to coach for track and field. He was a throws coach. And I remember him telling me how when they became dominant in the MAC and track and field early on, then all of a sudden they started trying to recruit NCAA level athletes. And it worked for a while, but then what happens when you miss? And then that's when they didn't win a championship. And he said, always make sure you're taking care of the MAC championship.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on that versus the bigger.
Remember that, yes. Because if you get your eyes set too big, then that could slip away.
Sure. Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Brian. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
No, ZIPS Nation Insider. We're big fans. Again, we've had a couple of your swimmers on. It's great to have you. Also, just want to remind everyone that this will come out on Thursday, the 17th, which is the day of giving for the University of Akron Athletics. Please look into that. Love to see that support, because not only does it go for the swim team, but also all the other teams here on campus, and want to continue the tradition of winning. And fortunately, unfortunately, I don't know, it takes money to be able to do that.
It does.
So want to encourage folks that watch this show, participate, and support what we do, to also support the sports teams here on campus. So thank you so much, Coach. Appreciate you being on ZIPS Nation Insider, and good luck next season.
Thank you. Go ZIPS.